Hi, my name is Erica Dawson, and I run a small family-owned restaurant on the west side of Chicago. For years, this place has been more than a business. It's been my sanctuary, my second home, and the proof that hard work can turn dreams into reality. Each day begins the same. The clang of pots in the kitchen, the rhythm of knives chopping fresh vegetables, the golden scent of bread baking in the oven. By noon, the sunlight filters through our tall front windows, painting the wooden tables in warm patterns. My regulars laugh softly over their meals. The staff moves with practiced ease, and I breathe in the comfort of routine. That afternoon started no differently. I had just stepped out of the kitchen, wiping my hands on a towel when the door swung open with a sharp jingle of the bell. At first, I thought it was just another customer, but then I saw them. Two men in dark navy uniforms entered. Their shoes hit the tile floor with a steady, heavy beat that quieted the room. One carried a thick folder tucked firmly under his arm. The other snapped on latex gloves with a crisp sound that made my stomach twist. The taller one looked straight at me. "Chicago Health Department. We're here for an inspection." My heart skipped. Inspections weren't unusual, of course. Every restaurant had to go through them, and we'd always done well. But these inspections were never sudden, never unannounced like this. Before I could speak, the officer added, "We received an anonymous complaint, allegations of serious violations." Anonymous. That single word hit me like a slap. Around the room, customers froze, forks suspended mid-bite. A couple whispered to each other, faces clouded with doubt. The easy chatter of the afternoon evaporated, replaced with tension so thick it was hard to breathe. I steadied my voice. "There must be a mistake. We passed inspection last month." The officer's expression didn't change. He opened the folder and revealed a stack of photographs clipped to the pages. The complaint included detailed evidence. "We're obligated to investigate now." Whispers spread like wildfire. Detailed evidence? Wow, maybe this place isn't as clean as it looks. One man leaned closer to his wife. "Think it's safe to keep eating here?" My throat tightened. Years of sacrifice, every night spent scrubbing until my hands ached, every dollar saved and reinvested, all of it felt fragile, dangling in the balance of strangers' gossip. I turned toward my staff, signaling them to stay calm, but inside my mind was racing. Who could have done this? How could someone know enough to create such a believable report? And then I saw her. Sitting near the window, sipping from a glass of water, was Sophia, my older sister. Her arms were crossed casually, her face arranged in a mask of polite concern. But when our eyes met, I caught it, the faint curl of her lips. Not a smile, not quite. More like the quiet satisfaction of a puppeteer watching her strings tighten. The complaint wasn't anonymous, not to me. The officers moved through my restaurant with relentless focus. One pulled open cabinets, another checked under counters, their pens scratching notes that sounded like hammers driving nails into my reputation. A woman near the bar whispered, "I always thought this place was spotless. Maybe I was wrong." Another muttered, "You never really know, do you?" The sting of those words burned deeper than I expected. My staff avoided my gaze, suddenly too busy with meaningless tasks, unwilling to be caught in the storm. Across the room, Sophia sat with her glass, watching like she had all the time in the world. To anyone else, she was just a worried family member. But I knew her. I knew the pattern. Growing up, she'd stolen credit for my projects, whispered lies to turn our mother against me, smiled sweetly while my name was dragged through the mud. And here she was again, orchestrating a scene designed to humiliate me in the one place I felt safe. I clenched my jaw, pressing my palms against the counter to steady myself. Humiliation surged, hot and sharp, but I forced myself to stay still. I remembered words once spoken by my first boss in the restaurant world. The moment they expect you to break, that's the moment you must stand taller. So I lifted my chin and said evenly, "Go ahead. Search. You won't find anything." The officer glanced at me, surprised by my calmness, then bent back to his notes. The inspection continued, the whispers grew, and the walls seemed to close in tighter. I looked once more at Sophia. This time she avoided my eyes, pretending to stir the ice in her glass. But I had already seen the truth. The knife in my back had her fingerprints all over it. The inspection stretched on, and every passing second felt like an hour. The officers moved with clinical precision, pulling open drawers, unscrewing lids, shining flashlights into corners that had never seen daylight. Each time a pen scratched across paper, my chest tightened, as if they were etching lines directly into my reputation. Customers whispered behind raised hands. I caught pieces of their conversations, fragments sharp enough to cut. "Did you see that? They found something under the sink." I knew it. No place looks this perfect on the outside without hiding something. I should have trusted my gut. Never liked the way they stored the cutlery here. None of it was true. None of it reflected the way I ran this place. But in that moment, truth no longer mattered. Perception did, and perception was slipping away from me like water through my hands. My staff huddled near the kitchen doorway, pretending to look busy. I saw Miguel, my sous chef, avoiding my eyes. Just yesterday, he had laughed with me over a shared plate of leftovers. Now he shifted from foot to foot, his face pale, as though even being seen standing near me might stain his own reputation. A younger waitress, Emily, tried to bring water to a table, but her hands trembled so badly the glass clinked against the wood. The customers gave her a look that said more than words could: suspicion, disappointment, maybe even fear. She scurried back, cheeks flushed. And all the while, Sophia watched. She leaned back in her chair, one arm draped casually over the side, eyes fixed on the unfolding scene, like she was enjoying a private theater performance. Every now and then, she tilted her head, feigning concern if anyone happened to glance her way. But when her gaze slid back to me, it was unmistakable: satisfaction. The officers approached me with a plastic bag containing a rag they claimed looked unsanitary. My voice wavered. "That rag is used for cleaning the counters between shifts. It's not a violation." The taller officer scribbled notes. "We'll document it anyway." A murmur rippled through the room. The sound was worse than any gavel in a courtroom. People weren't just questioning the rag, they were questioning me. I wanted to scream, to shout that it wasn't fair, that this was a setup. But the words lodged in my throat. If I sounded too defensive, I'd look guilty. If I stayed quiet, I looked weak. There was no right move, only a slow spiral downward. My eyes flicked back to Sophia. She raised her glass of water slightly, almost like a toast, and took a delicate sip. Memories flooded in. Sophia getting credit for my science project in middle school. Sophia whispering lies into our mother's ear, convincing her I'd skipped class when it had been her all along. Sophia turning every family dinner into a stage where she played the victim and I the villain. And now, here she was again, older, sharper, more ruthless, trying to strip away the one thing I had built without her shadow looming over me. One customer stood up and shook his head. "I can't eat here anymore. This is too much." He tossed a few bills on the table and walked out. His unfinished plate sat there, mocking me. Another followed, then another. Chairs scraped against the floor, each sound a nail driven deeper into the coffin of my business. Within minutes, half the tables were empty. The officers didn't flinch. They continued their inspection as though none of it mattered. But to me, it mattered more than anything. Every departing customer wasn't just lost revenue, it was lost trust, lost loyalty, lost faith. I clenched my fists at my sides. If I let myself crumble now, Sophia would win. That was her plan all along. Not just to humiliate me, but to isolate me, to make everyone else believe her silent accusations. One of the officers finally looked up. "We'll need to review these findings with the department. In the meantime, we'll be back in touch." His words echoed in my head. Findings. Not truth. Not facts. Just whatever they chose to write down. Whatever they chose to believe. And what would the city believe? That I, Erica Dawson, had failed. That my restaurant, my sanctuary, was a sham. The moment they left, silence clung to the room like smoke after a fire. A handful of loyal customers still sat at their tables, but their eyes avoided mine. No one smiled. No one offered comfort. My staff drifted back into the kitchen, whispering among themselves. And Sophia? She finally stood, smoothed her jacket, and walked slowly toward me. Her heels clicked against the floor, each step deliberate, each one heavy with unspoken triumph. She leaned in just close enough that only I could hear her. "Looks like you've got a real problem on your hands, Erica," she murmured, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Maybe you should have listened to me when I said this restaurant was too much for you." I stared at her, the air thick between us. My voice came out low, tight with fury. "You did this." Her lips curved, almost imperceptibly. "Anonymous reports are such a nuisance, aren't they?" She walked away, leaving me standing there, the echoes of her words ringing louder than the voices of every customer, louder than every scratch of the inspector's pen. For the first time since I'd opened my doors, my sanctuary felt like a prison, and the person who had locked me inside was my own sister. News spreads fast in Chicago, too fast. By the next morning, what had happened in my restaurant was no longer a private humiliation. It was gossip echoing across neighborhoods, slipping into phone calls, whispered at church, dissected in grocery store lines. I woke to a dozen missed calls, some from vendors, hesitant about future deliveries, some from friends, their voices tight with forced sympathy, and one, the hardest of all, from my mother. When I finally called her back, her tone was clipped, distant. "Erica, what on earth have you gotten yourself into? People are calling me. Your aunt said she saw something on Facebook about inspectors at your restaurant. Is it true?" I swallowed hard. Yes, but it wasn't what it looked like. We didn't fail anything. It was... "Don't lie to me," she cut in sharply. "I told you years ago that running a restaurant was too much. I told you it would end like this. You should have listened to Sophia. She's always had a better sense for these things." Her words hit harder than any customer's whisper. Sophia, the same sister who set this fire, was the one my mother chose to believe. Not me. Never me. "Mom, she's the one who filed the complaint. I know it." A pause. Then a sigh heavy with disappointment. "Sophia wouldn't do that. She only wants what's best for you. Maybe if you stopped being so stubborn, you could learn something from her." The line went dead before I could answer. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the cracks in my kitchen wall. It felt like the ground itself had shifted beneath me. By the afternoon, the fallout grew worse. A friend I'd known since college, Marcy, called to say she couldn't come by the restaurant anymore. "I'm sorry, Erica. You know I love you, but people talk. My husband doesn't want to take the risk. You understand, right?" Understand? That word stung. I understood betrayal. I understood cowardice dressed up as concern. But I didn't understand how people who'd known me for years could toss me aside the moment things got difficult. Even my staff wasn't immune. Miguel avoided my texts, claiming he was sick when I knew he wasn't. Emily sent a short message. "I don't feel comfortable working until this blows over." Blows over, as if my entire reputation, my livelihood, was nothing more than bad weather. And at the center of it all was Sophia. She didn't need to say a word to anyone. All she had to do was tilt her head, let that expression of concern linger on her face, and the world filled in the blanks. She was the supportive sister, the responsible one, warning everyone about her reckless younger sibling who bit off more than she could chew. I was the cautionary tale. That night, I sat alone in the restaurant long after closing, the chairs turned upside down on the tables. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. I ran my hands across the smooth wood of the counter, the same counter I'd scrubbed until my fingers bled in those first months after opening. Now it felt foreign, cold, as though it belonged to someone else. I thought of the customers who used to laugh here, the staff who once believed in me, the family I thought would stand by me. And I thought of Sophia, carefully dismantling it all piece by piece, smiling as she watched me crumble. The next day, I confronted my mother in person. She sat at her kitchen table, a cup of tea steaming in her hand. Sophia was there too, of course, perched beside her like a dutiful daughter. "Mom," I said, my voice low but steady, "you need to hear the truth. Sophia sent that report. She planted those lies. She's trying to destroy me." Sophia gasped softly, the perfect performance. "Erica, how could you say that? After everything I've done to support you." Mother's eyes narrowed, not at her, but at me. "Do you hear yourself? Jealousy isn't a good look, Erica. You've always blamed Sophia whenever things go wrong. Maybe it's time to admit the problem is you." I felt the air leave my lungs. "You really believe her over me? Again?" "Enough!" My mother's voice cracked like a whip. "You've embarrassed this family enough already. Go fix your mess instead of pointing fingers." Sophia reached over, placing her hand on Mom's arm, her face arranged in the perfect mask of wounded innocence. I saw the flicker in her eyes, though, the glint of triumph. She had won this round, at least in our mother's court. I walked out before they could see the tears burning behind my eyes. The city air was cold, sharp, but it was nothing compared to the frost settling in my chest. For the first time, I wondered if Sophia might actually succeed, if she might take everything from me, my business, my reputation, even my family, and for the first time I felt truly alone. The silence in my restaurant after hours was suffocating. Empty chairs, spotless counters, and yet the weight of judgment still clung to every surface. My phone buzzed again, another cancellation from a supplier. The world was collapsing piece by piece, and every stone that fell had Sophia's fingerprints on it. I couldn't let her keep winning. So I called her. "Meet me at the restaurant," I said, my voice flat, leaving no room for excuses. She arrived half an hour later, heels clicking against the tile floor like a countdown. She didn't look nervous. She never did. Sophia was the kind of woman who could walk into a storm wearing silk and walk out without a drop on her. "Erica," she said, her tone syrupy sweet, "you sounded upset on the phone. What's going on?" I folded my arms, planting myself firmly behind the counter, the same spot where I'd stood during the inspection. "Cut the act, Sophia. You know exactly why you're here." Her eyebrows lifted in mock confusion. "Oh? Is this about the inspection? I heard about that. Terrible timing, really. But don't worry. You'll get through it. Stop." My voice cracked like a whip. "You did this. You sent that report. You've been poisoning everyone against me." For the first time, her mask slipped, just a fraction. Her lips twitched, her eyes flickered with satisfaction before she covered it with a laugh. "That's ridiculous. Why would I waste my time doing something like that?" "Because you've been doing it my whole life," I shot back, taking credit for what I built. "Whispering lies so people believe you and doubt me. You did it in school, you did it at home, and now you're doing it here. But this time, it's my business. My life." Her eyes narrowed, the sweetness in her voice gone. "Always the victim, aren't you? Poor Erica. The world is out to get her. Maybe people doubt you because you give them reasons to." I leaned forward, fists tight on the counter. "You're jealous. Always have been. I built this place from nothing. I worked until my hands bled. And you, what have you ever built? You can't stand that for once I had something you couldn't control." She stepped closer, her perfume sharp in the air, her words a hiss. You think this restaurant makes you better than me? All it proves is that you were foolish enough to think you could succeed without me. Look around, Erica. Your customers are gone. Your staff is slipping away. Even Mom doesn't believe you. Face it, you're finished." Her words struck deep, but they also lit something inside me. Anger, yes, but also clarity. "You're wrong," I said, my voice steadying. "This isn't the end, and when the truth comes out, and it will, you'll be the one left with nothing." Sophia smirked, tilting her head. "Truth? People believe what they want to believe, and right now no one wants to believe you. That's the difference between us, Erica. I know how to control the story." For a long moment, we just stared at each other, two sisters bound by blood but divided by every choice, every betrayal. The silence between us was louder than any words. Finally, she straightened her jacket, her smile returning like a mask slipping back into place. "You should rest, Erica. Running a business is stressful, maybe too stressful for someone like you." She turned, her heels echoing as she walked toward the door. I called after her. "You can pretend all you want, Sophia, but I know the truth, and I'll prove it." She paused at the door, glancing back over her shoulder. Her eyes gleamed with a cruel kind of amusement. "Good luck. You'll need it." The door closed behind her, leaving me alone in the silence once more. But this time, it felt different. The humiliation still burned, but beneath it was a flicker of resolve. Sophia thought she had broken me. She thought she had control of the story, but stories aren't finished until the last page, and mine wasn't over yet. Days dragged on like months. Each morning, I opened the restaurant with fewer customers than the day before. The inspection wasn't even finalized yet, but rumors moved faster than facts. People wanted drama, not truth, and Sophia had given them a perfect story. The careless younger sister, too stubborn to admit her failures. One Thursday afternoon, just as I was debating whether to close early, I received a call from the health department. The officer's voice was clipped, but firm. "Ms. Dawson, we need you to come to headquarters tomorrow morning. Bring your legal documents. We'll be reviewing the complaint formally." It felt like a death sentence. The next morning, I walked into a conference room that smelled faintly of coffee and disinfectant. A long table stretched across the space, papers and folders stacked neatly. Two inspectors sat at one end, their faces unreadable. Beside them was a young IT specialist, his laptop open, wires and cables spread like veins across the table. Sophia was already there. Of course she was. She stood when I entered, her hand on our mother's arm, projecting concern and dignity. To anyone else in the room, she looked like the supportive sister standing by in a time of crisis. But when her eyes met mine, I saw it. That flicker of triumph she could never quite hide. "Let's get started," one of the inspectors said. "We've reviewed the original complaint, the photographs, and the metadata associated with the files." Sophia's posture remained calm, almost regal. Mine tightened with dread. The IT specialist cleared his throat. "We traced the origin of the report. The email address used wasn't anonymous at all. It was masked, but the underlying IP address and login credentials point to a personal account belonging to..." He paused, glancing at the file. "Sophia Dawson." The room went silent. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. But then the words sank in, heavy and undeniable. My sister's name, attached to the betrayal I'd suspected all along. I turned toward her. Her face, usually so composed, cracked just slightly. Her lips parted, her eyes widened. Then, quickly, she arranged her expression back into innocence. "There must be some mistake," she said smoothly. "Anyone could have used my account. Perhaps my password was stolen. Erica, you know I'd never..." But the IT specialist wasn't finished. "We also cross-checked the timestamps on the photographs. The images were taken from a phone registered under your name, Ms. Dawson. Same device, same metadata, same geolocation. In fact, one of the photos was taken in your car, just outside the restaurant. The inspectors shifted uncomfortably. My mother's eyes darted between us, confusion spreading across her face. I felt my breath return in a rush, like surfacing from underwater. For days, I had been drowning in suspicion and humiliation. Now, finally, the truth stood in the open. Sophia laughed, but it was brittle, hollow. "This is absurd. Erica probably planted something. She's desperate, and you're all falling for it." One inspector raised a hand. "Ms. Dawson, the evidence is conclusive. False reports to a government agency are a serious offense. You could face penalties, even charges." The color drained from Sophia's face. For once, she had no mask to hide behind, no quick excuse, no charming smile to redirect the blame. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then finally sat back in her chair, silent. I looked at her, really looked at her. My sister, the person who should have been my ally, my family, and I felt not joy, not triumph, just a weary kind of release. The inspector turned to me. "Ms. Dawson will clear your record. The inspection results show no violations. Your restaurant remains in good standing." Those words should have felt like victory, and in some way, they did. But more than that, they felt like survival. I hadn't won so much as I had endured. Across the table, my mother stared at Sophia, her face pale with disbelief. "Sophia, tell me this isn't true." But Sophia stayed silent, her eyes fixed on the table. For the first time in my life, she had no story left to tell. The meeting ended. Papers were signed, formalities wrapped up, and I was free to go. As I stood to leave, I caught Sophia's eye one last time. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. The perfect sister, the puppet master, stripped bare by her own schemes. I leaned down, my voice low but steady. "You tried to bury me, Sophia, but all you did was dig your own grave." I walked out of that room into the cool morning air. The city felt different, brighter, lighter. Not because everything was fixed, not because my scars had healed, but because the truth had finally stepped out of the shadows. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe again. The morning after the meeting, I walked back into my restaurant with a weight finally lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, the air inside didn't feel suffocating. The sunlight streaming through the front windows no longer seemed cruel, no longer mocking me. It felt like a reminder that darkness never lasts forever. Word traveled quickly, just as quickly as the rumors had before. Only this time, the story was different. The health department cleared my name. Official statements confirmed there were no violations, no misconduct, no truth to the report that nearly destroyed me. At first, only a few brave regulars trickled back in. They smiled awkwardly, placing orders as if testing the waters. "We knew you'd be fine, Erica," one said. Though we both knew that wasn't true, they had doubted me, just like everyone else. Still, I welcomed them back with the same warmth as before, because if this ordeal had taught me anything, it was that bitterness eats away at you faster than betrayal. Day by day, the seats began to fill again. The hum of conversation returned. The smell of garlic and butter once more floated through the air like a promise. Slowly, the life I had built began to stitch itself back together. But some wounds don't heal easily. My staff came back too, one by one. Emily apologized in a whisper, her cheeks red. Miguel avoided eye contact at first, then finally said, "I should have trusted you. I'm sorry, boss." I nodded, accepting, though part of me wondered if things would ever feel the same. Trust, once cracked, never fits together the way it used to. And then there was my mother. She came by one evening after the last customer had left. She stood in the doorway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "I don't know what to say," she admitted softly. "I should have believed you. I wanted to think Sophia was better than that. Her voice trembled. For years, I had lived in Sophia's shadow, measured against her charm, dismissed in her favor. Hearing my mother say those words, finally acknowledging the truth, felt like both a balm and a wound. "I don't need apologies, Mom," I said gently. "I just need you to see me for who I am, not for who Sophia told you I was." She nodded, her eyes misting. But I knew our relationship would take time to mend. Family doesn't break cleanly. It fractures in ways that leave jagged edges. As for Sophia, she disappeared. Word spread that she had resigned from her job, her reputation tarnished. Some said she left the city altogether. Others claimed they saw her once or twice, head down, avoiding eye contact. For the first time in my life, Sophia wasn't in control. She wasn't the center of attention. She was just gone. And yet, even in her absence, her shadow lingered. Because betrayal doesn't vanish with the betrayer, it lingers in your bones, reminding you of the scars beneath your skin. One night, as I locked up, I stood in the middle of the empty dining room and let myself breathe it all in. The polished tables, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the faint scent of rosemary from the kitchen. This was mine. Built by my hands, my will, my endless hours of sacrifice. Sophia had tried to take it away. She had tried to strip me of my dignity, my livelihood, even my family's trust. But she failed, because the one thing she couldn't break was my resolve. That's what I wanted people to remember, not just the betrayal, not just the scandal, but the truth that came after. That no matter how deep the knife cuts, you can survive. You can rise. So when customers asked how I had gotten through it, I didn't tell them about the evidence, or the inspectors, or the humiliation. I told them this: sometimes the people closest to you will try to bury you. But if you hold your ground, if you refuse to give in, the truth will dig you out. Weeks later, as the restaurant buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses once more, I realized something. The scars of betrayal may never fully fade, but they don't define you. What defines you is how you carry them, how you walk forward even when your heart is heavy. I wasn't just Erica Dawson, the woman who almost lost everything. I was Erica Dawson, the woman who fought back, who endured, who stood tall even when the world tried to break her. And for the first time, I truly believed that was enough. At the end of it all, Erica's story reminds us that even when betrayal cuts the deepest, when it comes from family, it doesn't have to define us. She faced lies, humiliation, and loss, but the truth eventually rose to the surface. And in standing her ground, she proved stronger than those who tried to tear her down. If you've ever felt abandoned or doubted, remember this: resilience is power, and integrity always leaves the last word. Stay strong, keep believing, and let your truth shine through. Thank you for watching. If this story spoke to your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. And always remember, you matter, and your love leaves a mark.